You are listening to an exclusive interview on Bass Musician Magazine. The interview starts now.
Hey everybody, Raul here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of chatting with bassist, author, songwriter, Tony Marsico.
How you doing, pal? Good to see you.
Doing great. Starting from the beginning, you have done a ton of stuff, and we want to kind of touch base on that a little bit. We always like to go back in time and get an idea. How did you get started in music and on bass?
Well, we'll take the time machine back. I grew up in a musical family. My brother was a drummer from the time we were kids, and basically when I was in my early teens, my brother came home with an old Epiphone bass that he bought somewhere for $100 and said, "If you always want to play in bands, here, take this bass and learn how to play." So I was like, I knew I wanted to be a musician. I just was I had an old Framus guitar, I had this and that, but when he brought the bass home, I picked it up, I held it. I knew instantly that was the instrument for me, and I still have that bass to this day.
Nice.
So that got me started playing bass at a young age.
And I know that you jumped right in because, again, you were playing with the Plugs and Los Cruzados. And
well, I made the trip. I made the journey to L.A. in 1980, and I figured I grew up in Philadelphia. So it was either go to New York, and I did that. I would go to New York, play CBGBs, Danceteria, the Bottom Line, all those kind of places in New York. And then someone said, come out to California. The punk scene is happening out here. And I got out, and it was probably about 6 months before I got in the Plugs, but it was so alive when I got to L.A. Bands like X, the Blasters. The scene was really thriving, and I just jumped right into it. It was a great, exciting time in L.A. to be here.
Totally. And are you self-taught? Did you take classes or?
Well, I'm basically self-taught, even though my brother tried to convince me to take lessons, but I think I was a very poor student. And so I just got on my own, and I learned really just from doing any kind of gig when I was young, even before punk rock, playing in top 40 bands, playing whatever, rock bands, you name it, just to try and get my craft down and figure out what I was doing on the bass, and that really did it, just by playing every kind of gig I could get. And then I fell in love with punk rock, and my career kind of exploded from there.
Tell us about that expansion, because once that really took off, and this will kind of tie into your book, you guys were touring and the works.
Well, the Plugs originally was how it all started, and then we morphed into this band called the Cruzados around 1984. We got signed by Clive Davis, and we put out a couple albums on Ariston. We kind of toured the world for about 4 years. But right around that time, Bob Dylan had seen us play at a club in Santa Monica, and we were just kids. We were early 20s. And I got a call from Bob Dylan saying, or his management saying, we would like you, and, can we get you guys to come up? Not the whole band, but we got the call to go up and kind of audition for Bob up at his house. So we went out to Point Dume, Malibu, and it led into a 1 year period where we would just go up Bob's house. He just wanted young guys to jam with, and I think at the time he was excited about punk rock taking off and this and that, and he had a lot of interest in what we were doing. He just wanted to jam with us, and we were like, yeah, we'll jam with you. Bob Dylan's calling, yeah, we'll be up your house. So we did that. We would just play for hours looking out over the Pacific at his house, and some days we'd be there for 8 hours just playing and jamming, and he'd be making up songs, and we weren't rehearsing for anything in particular, even though eventually we would go to New York with him and perform on TV and things like this. But yeah, it was just a fluky thing. So I guess it's like if you play out live, you better be on it, because you don't know who's kind of watching you. It exploded. That took off for me. Yeah.
Gotcha. And talking, I'll dive into the book. I'm Just Here for the Gig.
Yeah.
Is chock full of stories. So tell us about you mentioned somebody told you, You've got so much that you've experienced, you should write this down. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, the book is 40 years of doing every possible gig that musicians do to survive in the music business and keep playing. And, my career has been a lot of really high peaks, playing with really famous people, a lot of low peaks, a lot of even below peaks, where you just do different kinds of gigs and things that take you from one gig to the other. Some amazing gigs, some amazing venues you play. You tour the world, you play crappy bars. You do everything, but yet you never get a real job. That's what I do, and that's what the book is about: how to survive the music business, without getting a real job. That's the full title, and that's kind of what I managed to do, and I still do it. But I wouldn't do it any other way, because I love not knowing what kind of gig I'm going to get to every day, or who I'm going to be playing with, and that's what keeps music exciting for me, as opposed to, I don't think I was a one man in a one band type guy my whole life. I just like to move around.
Well, and there are so many different ways that some of these things work. I mean, I talk to players that will be with a band for 40 years, or I'll talk to players that will have been in an assortment of bands, or like your Broadway show pit people that, they play the show, they write it out, and then they're on to the next deal. So, there's all kinds of interesting possibilities. And I do have to mention that I'm surprised that, I suppose if there would have been an internet back in the day, you guys might have gotten on the Holiday Inn list of watch out for these guys, judging by the stories.
Yeah, when I started out, we did our share of Holiday Inns. That's just what we did, and we got paid $140 a week to play 7 nights a week, 6 sets a night. Mm-hmm. But you know what? We had a great time, and that's how I started out, and that's how I learned to play bass, honestly. And all the famous rock bands were touring at the time. They would come in and they would see us play, and they would be like, you're not bad, kid, but you should move to California if you want to make it. And I took advice from him. That's why I hightailed it out of there. Well,
a lot of it is the right place and the right time. If you are in the right place and things are picking up, it makes a total world of difference.
It really does. Sometimes you don't know if that right place and right time is going to happen. It's just kind of magical when it does click. But when it does click, you got to just dive right in and go with it, and that will definitely take you pretty far. Just doing what you love and jump in. Don't be afraid to jump in. And I kind of was never afraid, really. I never plan on having another job, really, once I started. So here I am.
Now, there's a CD that goes along with the book. Tell me a little bit about the band.
This is a band that I put together just for the book. Some of my favorite session players that I've done gigs with over the years. It features Denny Freeman, who is a Texas legend on guitar that's played with Dylan for years, and he's played with Taj Mahal, and Denny's credited for teaching Stevie Ray Vaughan guitar. He was in Stevie's first band, so he's Stevie's mentor, and he played with Jimmy Vaughan for years. So I got my buddy Denny Freeman on guitar. Mm-hmm. On organ, I got Barry Goldberg, who's a Chicago legend from Electric Flag and from Dylan. He played with Dylan on the gig when Dylan went electric the first time ever, and Barry's played with everybody. So, and then one of my best friends, Earl, on drums. This guy is solid. I found him in New Orleans just by chance, and we hit it off. We struck up a great friendship. He was kind of relatively unknown at the time, but he's a great groover. He plays solid drums. So that's our band. We just went in. We cut some great original blues songs, a whole record, and just jammed. We did it all, and did it all live, pretty much, and that's what came out of it. Yeah.
Nice. If people want to get their hands on this, hereforthegig.com is the best place to look?
That's right. And it's here with the number 4, hereforthegig.com. The book is available. The CD is available and different things like that on the site. It's a big site. It has a lot of pictures and my history and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of an entertaining site if you want to check it out and say hi to me. So.
Very nice. Very nice. And because music is a lot about sound, we should talk a little bit about gear. Of course, you double up. You play both upright and electric, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, yeah. And my favorite these days, I've been playing upright now for about 30 years, so I'm still loving it, and it's still a bear to get under control, and it will always be. But I love playing my old K bass. I have an old, 53K that I play. It's kind of my baby, and I played Tomastic strings on that. I've had that set up for years. And I have other upright with nylon with gut strings on it that I play for different types of sessions, different sound that you'll need. And over the years, I've had every type of electric bass you could have. I still always go back to my old vintage Fender P basses, 66, 62, and you name it. I've tried every bass over the years, but I'm still partial to a Fender, and As far as gear, I've been playing the same gear since I was about 18. I play Ampeg, and when I used to tour with 3 stacks, and 3 SVT heads on stage behind me, and for that maximum rumble. Now that's kind of my gear of choice. I was endorsed by Ampeg for years, and electric strings. I'm not real fussy about my electric strings. I mostly play GHS. I play flats. I love flat wounds. Mm-hmm. Pieces are strung up with flats over the years, and that's pretty much my gear. I'll go through some boxes now and then just for fun. A little fuzz box, things like that, just for some distortion if I need a sound for a record or recording or something. But pretty straight ahead sound, yeah.
Well, especially when you're doing a wide variety of things, you kind of have to start out with your basic sound and your basic signal. Yeah. And then you can kind of modify from there. And I find that especially when you talk to a lot of your session musicians and all that, Brian Bromberg is one that was telling me he likes to just get a nice, good, clean, flat signal in.
Yeah,
and true. Then let the engineer do what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, if you have a good bass and you got a good handle on your instrument, mm-hmm. you can plug direct into a board and get a killer sound, through tube gear or whatever. And I do that a lot. I don't even bring an amp because my P basses sound good. Just plug direct, and you can tweak things at a good studio, but you usually don't have to. The direct signal is fabulous on my vintage basses. It's the sound I want. So. Sometimes I'll bring in for a little umph, like a little flip top, Ampeg flip top, a B15 or something. Mm-hmm. Just give it a little more, feel that air move a little. But for the most part, yeah, I plug straight in for sessions.
Yeah,
that's done a lot. I've worked on a Neil Young record, the same thing. Plug straight into the board, no amp. Fender, I think I used a 66 on that in the session, and it gets a big fat P bass sound, which I love.
Moving on. The music business, and you've been in it, it's kind of like knowing what temperature the water is while you're swimming in the pool, because you've been experiencing, and you've had your own experience, but so many people that have also had, their experiences and share information. With the changes, I don't like to think of it as being bad, because some people will go, oh, things are not good anymore. But it's more that they're different, and you have to kind of adapt to how they are.
You do. If you want to be a working musician, and that's kind of what I am, you got to adapt. I played through the 80s. I toured all through alternative times through the 90s with bands. You change with the times if you want to play. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're kind of, you don't want to be the guy stuck in the past that just wants to, play the 70s classic rock. You want to move on. If you want to work, mm-hmm. Do different kinds of sessions, and that's exciting to me. But you have to survive and go through a lot of stuff to keep it going. As a working musician over the years, I've been like reamed, robbed, scammed with record companies, and it's just all part of the business. But you don't take it all to heart. You just survive, you move on, and musically you move on too, or you're going to be stuck in the past, And I don't really get excited so much talking about the past. I like to think, what I'm going to be doing, where my gig is next week, or that excites me.
So that ties in plans for the future. I know things are kind of a steady with unpredictable things, but do you have any projects that you'd like to be working on down the road?
Well, I don't have anything coming in that I know off the top of my head. I perform regularly. I have a jazz band called the Martini Kings, an upright vibraphone kind of mm-hmm. 60s kind of jazz, and that keeps me pretty busy working all the time. I have a lot of fun. There's a whole big tiki community when you live in California, so I'm always playing the tiki festivals, and I like to do that genre of music. As I got older, I found I love that whole music scene. It's kind of like punk rock, but the opposite. But you get to do kind of whatever you want, like you did in punk rock days. It's like there's rules, and the people are cool, and it's a very fun, thriving scene out west. So it's fun for me. So, and then I just wait and see what kind of sessions or whatnot come in, or sometimes I'll get a crazy wild hair and I'll come up with something. But for now, I just plow ahead and see where my next gig is. Next week. So
there you go. Well, and if people want to stay on top of what you're doing, TonyMarsico.com.
Yeah, that's the website. Or look me up on Facebook and just say hi, under Tony Marsico, Marsico. And I love hearing from people. And if they have any comments, shoot me one or just say hi, and I'll keep you posted what's going on out in California. Visit, I got a couch for you over here.
Yeah, we've had our fair share of musicians up here in the Pacific Northwest passing through as well.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, we appreciate you taking time from your busy schedule. Folks, Tony is author of I'm Just Here for the Gig. Make sure you check it out. If you find yourself like I did just earlier this week watching Roadhouse, look for him there somewhere.
Yeah, Roadhouse. We're the opening band for about 10 minutes in Roadhouse.
There you go.
Roadhouse.
So then you'll go, oh, I know who that is. But
yeah, that's that guy.
Anyway,
thanks again, Tony, for taking time to chat with us. Folks, you've seen him here, Tony Marsico on Bass Musician Magazine.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for basing out with us here on BassMusicianMagazine.com.